Hey guys, it's Shadowswom here, and I'm here to present to you guys the Week 1 2014 season champion rotation for League of Legends. As usual, going to go over the champions, some items you can generally expect on them, the roles they usually fill, and, just kind of how to deal with them. So we've got Katarina, Tryndamere, Twitch, Olaf, Misfortune, Karma, Skarner, Riven, Thresh, and Lissandra as the free week champions this week. So just gonna go down the list and go from there. So Katarina, very, very good mid or top lane champion. She'll generally be played in one of those two lanes. There's no reason why you would see her in the jungle or at bottom unless they were doing a kill lane at bot. But she's a very, very, very potent mid lane champion as well as a very potent top lane champion. The reason people would generally pick her is she's very, very good at assassinating people. With the changes that they did to her ultimate, scaling more with AD and AP, and just everything else they did to her kit, her Shumpo, reducing damage taken, etc. She's very potent at just getting into the fray, killing a bunch of people, getting back out before she dies. That being said, easiest way to deal with her, when you see her her ult go off, stun her. Stun, fear, taunt, whatever. Find some way of crowd controlling her, otherwise you're gonna die. Items you can generally expect to see on Katarina would be stuff like Rabadon's Death Cap, a Hextech Gunblade, a Rylus Crystal Scepter, what else? A Zhonya's Hourglass, because she's cooldown based, not reliant on anything but her cooldowns being up. She doesn't need any sort of, regen other than some sort of health regen. But that's, done through, Spell Vamp and Lifesteal, which was where that Hextech Gunblade comes in. So, those are general items you can expect to see on Katarina. You might also see an Abyssal Scepter or a Deathfire Grasp. Those are pretty common as well on Katarina. But generally, Rabadon's Death Cap and Zhonya's, as well as a Hextech Gunblade, almost standard on her. That's as far as in the AD that she's going to go. Other than that, it's almost pure AP, because everything else scales better or only with AP. Next, we have Tryndamere, who's very good at top laning, as well as very good in the jungle. He'll build items such as a Infinity Edge, Static Shiv, what else would he build? Bloodthirster. All of those types of items are pretty good on Tryndamere. He's meant to be just, oh my god, you got me down to 1 health, haha, ult, you can't kill me, type scenario. His ult prevents him from dying, and it's nuts. Easiest way to shut down Tryndamere, don't even bother tagging him until he's the only one left alive. It sounds counterintuitive, but, the lower his health, the higher damage he does, thanks to his Q passive, and the higher chance he has of critting. Other than that, he's pretty annoying to deal with. Sorry, forgive me, I'm still a little sick here, but, he's annoying to deal with again. Good top or jungle champion. Not much else to say. Again, standard items would be Bloodthirster, Static Shiv, a Ravenous Hydra doesn't go amiss on him either. So, bear that in mind. Next we have Twitch, who very, very good at what he does. He's a very good ADC, or what they call marksman now. He's very, very, hyper squishy. He's probably one of the squishiest ADCs in League, but he makes up for that by having a high damage output. And his ultimate Spray and Pray, it can just devastate a team fight. You get extra range, but your attacks, flow through everything in a line. But, it does subsequently less damage past that first target. But hey, you're still stacking a poison on every single target you're hitting when you have Spray and Pray popped. And that it goes way out of control with Expunge too. General items you could expect to see on Twitch would be a Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge, your standard ADC items. A Phantom Dancer doesn't go amiss on him, as well as a Last Whisper. None of those go amiss on Twitch at all, and maybe see Guardian Angel for some sort of survivability with that health, or the magic resistant armor. But yeah, that's generally it for Twitch. The easiest way to deal with him, get wards, get Oracle, get some sort of stealth detection. Easiest way. You know, if Twitch can't farm in the early to mid game, he's almost useless. Because he's one of those that requires heavy amounts of farm to be any sort of good. But yeah, that's, you know, general gameplay of Twitch and how you can expect to deal with him. Again, CC is always good, so taunt, stun, etc. Next we have Olaf. Again, very potent top or jungle lane, just like Tryndamere. The biggest difference between Olaf and Tryndamere, while Tryndamere's ultimate allows him to not die and keeps him at 1 health and whatnot, Olaf just allows him to not be CC'd. And I believe he also gains armor pen when he pops his ult and he gets extra armor. I could be mistaken on that one. But yeah, he's just a beast to deal with. With Undertow having a minimum slow and cast range, yeah, and Reckless Swing just doing an absurd amount of damage. An absurd amount of true damage at that. He's very, very annoying to deal with, and very... He's one of those champions where if you let him just kind of farm, you know, 100 CS, maybe get a kill or so, he's almost unstoppable if played right. Almost unstoppable. Any champion is stoppable, but, you know, Olaf more so than any other is almost unstoppable because of his ultimate, where he cannot be CC'd, and you'll know when he pops his ultimate because he glows bright red. You know, it's pretty obvious when he pops his ult. You know, when that happens, you just have to kite him, wait for his ult to go away, and then just murder him with CC. Items you can expect to see on Olaf, just like Tryndamere, would be that Ravenous Hydra, but with Olaf, it's more you want to go for some sort of health as well, so, you know, Warmugs does not go amiss on Olaf, but then other than that, it would be something along the lines of a Phage, Frozen Mallet. You don't really get crit or lifesteal as Olaf, because you're just meant to be that big, oh my god, I'm going to hit you very hard, but I can barely crit type deal. Again, annoying to deal with, but not impossible. Next we have Misfortune, who, very, just like Twitch, very potent at being an ADC. She requires a little less farm than Twitch. Her ultimate is channeled, so you can be stunned, interrupted, you know, stunned, let's see, yeah, stunned, feared, grabbed by somebody, such as, you know, Darius. You know, any sort of wave crowd controlling Misfortune when she's ulting shuts her down. Shuts most of her damage out. You know, but between Double Up, Make It Rain, and Impure Shots, you are just a monster. With Impure Shots, it has both passive and active. When you just have a passive, it does a stacking magic damage buff, or debuff to your target that makes them take extra damage every time they get hit by you, up to a cap. And when you activate it, it increases your attack speed and reduces the healing they receive by 50%. Double Up makes it to where you can go ahead and activate your Q onto somebody that's obviously your Q, and, you know, you activate it onto, say, a melee minion, and 9 out of 10 times it'll go back and hit a ranged, you know, a caster minion, or if there's a champion or another melee minion behind it, it'll hit that. So it's very good for harassing when, you know, people are just kind of lining up in a straight line. It's very, very good for that, because that second shot after that, the bounce after you hit the first target with Double Up, it actually does more damage to the secondary target than it does the primary. But I believe it does go ahead and, on the primary target, does have the on-hit effect from items such as Frozen Mallet. And items you can expect to see on Misfortune would be Infinity Edge, Bloodthirster, a Static Shiv. Isn't necessarily the greatest, but it's not bad either. You want to go for a Phantom Dancer instead. Let's see, what else? Guardian Angel doesn't go amiss on her either. And if you just want to just, you know, kind of troll, you can go ahead and get a Black Cleaver, because it actually does work with your ult. And so if everybody gets hit by your ult, they get 5 stacks of your Black Cleaver. It's kind of nuts. Or is it 3 stacks? I forget what they changed it to. But either way, it's very, very good on her. And, Last Whisper obviously too. Those are items you can expect to see on Miss Fortune, and again, easiest way to shut her down is just, like any ADC, go stun them and just kill them right off the bat. If you let Miss Fortune channel her ult, 9 out of 10 times, she will just wreck the entire team. That being said, moving on to Karma, who's played as either mid or support. As support, you'll see general support items on her. I don't have to go into that aspect, because I hope most of you would know. If you don't know, general support items would be stuff along the lines of a Chalice of Harmony, build that into a Malix Crucible, or build that into a Athene's Unholy Grail. Can also go ahead and get, something like a Runic Bulwark. That's always nice for Karma to have. And it's really situational based. A Shirley's Reverie is always good on her too, if being played as support. If she's being played as mid, expect standard AP items such as Rabadon's Deathcap, Zanya's, etc. Crystal Scepter doesn't go amiss on Karma either, but you do want that way of getting mana regen, so again, that Athene's Unholy Grail or Rod of Ages, or even on the off chance you go ahead and get an Archangel Staff. But all those are pretty standard depending on what role Karma is filling. Next we have Skarner, who's very good at being in the jungle, and if they go through with the changes that they're talking about right now in the upcoming patch that I talked about in my PBE video, it was the most recent one previous to this. I can see him being a top laner too. He's good at both top and mid, or top and jungle currently, just like Olaf or Turnimir, but I think he excels a little more in the jungle than he does in the lane, because as of right now his E, whenever you kill a target with the effect from E on it, or on them, you gain some health back currently. Your W gives you an attack speed and movement speed boost, as well as giving you a small shield for a short duration, and your Q is just a small little AoE around you that does moderate amount of damage. Your ultimate allows you to grapple somebody and pull them through, multiple people into a bad situation. Standard items you can expect to see on Skarner would be something along the lines of a Iceborne Gauntlet. That's always good for him. Boots of Swiftness would actually be pretty good, or, Merc Treads depending on the situation. And I really don't know what else, because I haven't played Skarner as much as I should have. But, I would say worst comes to worst, go with the recommended items, or ask your teammates what you should build. This is where I would say go for, those 1 or 2 bot games, and just understand how his build kind of works. He scales relatively well with AP, but you don't want to just go full-blown AP. That's why I'm saying get, something like Iceborne Gauntlets, where you get that stain, or you get the mana, you also get the armor from everything else that goes into the Iceborne Gauntlets. But other than that, pretty tough champion. Again, Warmogs is good for him. Randuin's Omen, good for him as well. He's meant to be, that beef in the team fight. He's meant to be the target that's able to dish out some damage, but take a lot of it. So, again, health, magic resist, armor, good for Skarner, and maybe get those Iceborne Gauntlets. Next we have Riven, who, again, if they're, planning on doing, it actually did happen this patch, she now scales better with AD, because her Q, Broken Wings, scales better with bonus AD instead of total AD. So, or no, I believe it only scales with bonus AD, so, yeah. She's just got a whole bunch of utility in her kit. She can be played top or jungle as well. She's one of those that actually excels in either one. It's kind of take your pick on which your team needs more. Did you already have top? Okay, then you go jungle. If you had a jungle, okay, go top. So, there's that. But items you could expect to see on Riven would be Ravenous Hydra. Phantom Dancer doesn't really go miss on her. A Bloodthirster is always good as well. Due to her high health gain passively, You don't really need to build any sort of health items except maybe a frozen mallet if you wanted to. But, she does get a small shield that does scale with AP, but I would not recommend building AP on her at all. It would be more along the lines of, hey, build, attack damage and health, or attack damage and, armor and magic resist, because you're going to need it. So again, much like Skarner, much like Olaf, actually, that high damage, no crit, well, little to no crit, I should say, and, just that high sustain. Easiest way to shut Riven down would be just going ahead and stunning, just blowing her up off the bat, otherwise she'll blow your entire team up off the bat. Between her broken wings, her dash, her stun, and her ult, she's just a beast to deal with. So either you deal with her up front, or you just die to her. If you've left her with no farm for the first, I would say little to no farm, like under 50 CS by, I would say, 10 minutes in, you're doing your job if she's in the top lane. If she's in the jungle, well, you can't stop it. So, yeah, just be wary of where she is. If she's in the jungle, ward. Ward like your heart, ward like your life depends on it in the league, because it most likely does. But, again, be wary of her abilities. Her Q does have 3 different charges. The final charge knocks people up in the air. Her E, which is her stun, it stuns in a small radius around her. Her ult, it's just a cone. It's a conal attack. She can cast anywhere in a 360 radius around her. But yeah, I would highly recommend trying, if you're playing Riven, at least one bot game that to just understand how her broken wings works. Moving on though, Thresh, played mostly as support, can get some AP and, just some sort of magic resist in there as well. Due to Thresh's passive, he gets a scaling AP and armor buff every time he gets a soul. And you'll see the souls, they'll drop on the floor after a hero or champion dies, or certain minions die. Certain things guarantee you a soul, certain things don't. Siege minions, big jungle monsters such as the blue buff golem or the elder lizard, they guarantee give you soul champions as well. And then the caster minions and melee minions have a slight chance of giving you a soul. And again, those souls stack up to, however much you can get by the time the game's over. And it's a 0.75 armor and AP per soul. So say you have 100 souls, that's 75 bonus armor and ability power? That's not bad, given Thresh scales with AP, but again, mostly played as support, so again, those items such as, like you would get for Karma for support, Malik's Crucible, or the Athene's Unholy Grail, because Thresh does have a shield in the form of his lantern, he doesn't really need anything else. Obviously the health regen is nice from something like Shirley's Reverie, but again, it's not necessary, but it's needed. It's not needed, but it's needed type thing. What else would be good on Thresh? I'm trying to remember here. My general build as him would be support items. If you're playing on Summoner's Rift, go with what they kind of recommend. And if you're weary on what to pick, ask your teammates. Always ask your teammates. They can probably help you more than I could at some point. But yeah, with his Q being a hook, that's pretty much one of the best skill shots in the game in my opinion, because it can really just toss people out in the open. And it can catch people off guard. You can hook people through walls, you can hook them through bushes. It's nice. Then with your E, knocks people back or knocks them away depending on what you want to do. So you can go ahead, hook them, and knock them towards your teammates with your E. Then pop your ult, which is the box. If they run through one of the walls, they take massive amounts of damage and are slowed. His kit it's pretty brutal if you get his combo down, but other than that, you're there to be, hey, toss your lantern, get souls. Let your ally click the lantern, because they can actually do that, and they get dragged to you. Given that brings your lantern back to you, and you have to wait for the cooldown, but it's still good. You can get your teammates over walls, out of sticky situations, etc. Last but not least, we have Lissandra, who I've got extensive amounts of experience with, and use your ult on yourself 9 out of 10 times. If you're in the middle of a team fight, do not bother putting it on an enemy, because they'll just move away from them, or they'll use something to get out of it. So, I'll just explain a little more. Her passive, it allows her to cast a spell free of charge, no mana whatsoever, every 12 seconds, which that's pretty good. You know, your early game, you're going to be reliant on your Q to go ahead and get you kills. Granted, the way it works is it's a skill shot, but after it hits one target, it actually splits up into 3 smaller shards, dealing the same amount of damage, but, you know, it's only if it hits a target, but you decide on where the first bolt goes. Your W, it's a nice way to get into a team fight, get out of a team fight, or just, get closer to your base, or get out of your base quicker. It's got 2 components, an active and then a react. So, you go ahead and toss your ice path, or I believe it's glacial path. Yeah, I believe that's the name of it anyway, but you go ahead and activate it, tosses you can aim it in any direction you want, and a wall of ice will go in that direction. You can reactivate the ability at any time to go where the claw is going from your W, and you'll pop up right where that claw was. Your E, it's a nice route, but you have to do it when people are in a very small radius around you. So say my mouse is, or say Skarner's portrait right here is you. The area around you is this on how far you can go ahead and route people. It's a very, very small radius. So you gotta be careful when doing that. And your ultimate, your R, it allows you to do one of 2 things. Either encase an enemy or encase yourself, depending on who you pick. Encase one of you 2 in an ice tomb. They are unable to move, unable to cast spells, but are still able to take damage, and there's a big AoE that happens around them and allows the AoE allows the enemies to to take damage and to be slowed. Sorry, I'm again a little sick and mine's not working right. But yeah, your ult, it's pretty much as Zanya's if you don't have a Zanya's yet. That's why I'm saying you can use it on yourself 9 out of 10 times. First of all, you can save yourself if you put it on yourself, because you become untargetable, and yeah, it's nice. And actually, let me double check on that. Lissandra's ult. It doesn't actually say. Yeah, if cast on self, Lissandra encases herself in dark ice for 2.5 seconds, becoming untargetable and vulnerable, but unable to take any actions. And if you cast on an enemy, it freezes them for 1.5 seconds, but has the same effect or it doesn't have the same effect, but they can be targeted, but they're not invulnerable, and they cannot take any actions. And they also take that, damage, and it happens around them as well. But it lasts 1 second longer when you cast it on yourself. That's why I'm saying cast it on yourself. Go into the fray, go into that big clump that you normally would not go into. Go into it with your glacial path, and then, it's your W that's your freeze, and your E that's your path. Again, sorry. But yeah, go ahead and go into the fray with your E, with your E. Get in there, freeze people with your W, and then just ult on yourself and just do massive damage. Your ult scales with 70% of your AP, so that's always good. And your ice shards, pretty much everything you have, or anytime it's every 18 seconds, Lissandra's next ability costs no mana. The cooldown is reduced by 1 second whenever Lissandra impairs the enemy movements with an ability. So meaning ice shards, Ring of Frost or Frozen Tomb, your passive gets reset by 1 second. Which, that's not bad. Given she's very mana hungry, items you can expect to see on Lissandra or want to get on Lissandra would be Raudon's Death Cap, Rod of Ages. I've spoke about that extensively in my Lissandra video. You almost want to rush that Rod of Ages and maybe get an Archangel Staff, because it's almost necessary to have that sort of mana regen. But again, after that Rod of Ages, go for, Rabadon's Death Cap, Zanya's, because what you can do is you can ult yourself as Lissandra, and then as soon as your ult is over, if you're still in a bad situation, pop your Zanya's Hourglass, and still be untargetable, and not unable to do anything, but, it's better than dying, right? So, yeah. That's it, guys. Again, sorry if I botched some stuff up. Not really feeling the greatest, but figured I'd toss a video out anyway for you guys. As always, my name has been Shadowswolm. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments, if I mess up on something, if you have, input on what you think people should get as certain champion, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below. I'm only putting this video up for kind of educational purposes, for new players, and for people who don't really know what the champions do. So there you go, guys. Again, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content, go ahead and subscribe down below. If you don't like the video for whatever reason, if you think my voice is annoying, if you think I'm just a total idiot, I should stop doing the video, give it a thumbs down. Let me know in the comment section. Again, my name has been Shadowswolm, and I will talk to you all next time.